All right, today we are going deep. We're getting inside the mind of, one of the most talked about characters in modern fiction, Christian Grey. And we're going to do it by using his own internal monologue from the book Darker. We're going to piece together the real man behind that myth. So let's jump in. Okay, so first, let's look at the man the world thinks they know. On the surface, Christian Grey is the CEO of Grey Enterprises Holdings, Inc. You know the type. He's the picture of power, super decisive, a guy who just commands every single room he walks into. This is basically the polished, public-facing armor he wears every day.
And yeah, on top of all that, he's a billionaire. I mean, we are talking about a guy who pulls in something like $100,000 an hour. And look, this wealth isn't just some fancy backdrop for the story. No, for him, it's a tool. It's how he shapes his entire world. But if you peel back those first two layers, the CEO and the billionaire, you get to the absolute core of who he is. Christian Grey is, above everything else, a control freak. It's the operating system for his entire life.
And boom, right away we see the central conflict. All his logic, every single self-protective instinct he has, is screaming at him to just let Anastasia Steele go. But his desire, his sheer possessiveness, it just won't let him. And that battle, that's what defines his entire story.
So, let's really break down that operating system of his. Christian's whole world is just meticulously built. Every little piece is designed to maintain absolute unwavering control over every single variable. That's his baseline. That's where he starts from.
And you can see how this need for control just bleeds into his daily life. I mean, the guy functions on almost no sleep because he sees it as inefficient. His communication style, it's super brusque, just get to the point. He has these really rigid ideas about what his partner should do. He doesn't plan a romance with Anna, he plans a campaign. He literally uses his security team to monitor people. And every single interaction he has, it's a negotiation, a way to keep the upper hand. Absolutely nothing is left to chance.
And this is where we see the first real crack in that perfect facade. What he says out loud is always controlled, sometimes it's even polite. But his internal monologue, it's chaotic, it's possessive, it's completely raw. So he might say, I'm the boss, but what he's actually thinking is, keep your hands off my girl. That mask of control is seriously paper thin. So what happens when something, or someone, completely uncontrollable enters this perfectly ordered world? Well, that's Anastasia Steele. She is the ultimate disruption. She's the one variable he never, ever saw coming.
And there is no better example of this disruption than his reaction when he sees portraits of Anastasia taken by her friend, Jose. He doesn't look at them and see art. Nope. He sees them as a rival's love letters to his possession, and they're just out there on display for any random asshole to ogle. The jealousy is just immediate, and it is visceral.
So, how does a billionaire control freak handle a situation like that? Well, he doesn't argue. He doesn't negotiate. He just buys the problem away. He instantly drops $14,000 for every single portrait. It's a total blunt force move, right? A way to possess her image and just pull it from public view.
And you know what's really fascinating here? He's actually self-aware enough to know what's happening. He straight up admits to himself, I've lost control. But then, and listen to this, the very next thought is, but I can turn this around. Don't give up, Grey. He just immediately pivots from admitting he lost control to strategizing on how to get it back. And this really brings us to the core psychological conflict that's driving his every single move. It's this huge clash between the past trauma that built all his walls and this present desire for a woman who is threatening to tear them all down.
At first, he tries to force Anastasia into the only box he understands. I mean, he literally emails her a dictionary definition of a submissive, a role defined by words like compliant and passive. For him, this is the only way he knows how to be in a relationship, safely.
But Anastasia, she completely refuses to fit into that box. She spells out the fundamental problem for him. His rigid, insane rules just don't work with real human emotion. She tells him that the pain of losing him was so much worse than any physical pain he ever inflicted. And that just shatters his entire worldview.
And then we finally get to the source of all this trauma. He reveals that his biological mother, a crack whore, as he calls her, failed to protect him from her pimp. It becomes so clear that his obsessive need for control is a direct response to a childhood where he had absolutely none.
And the memory he shares is just, it's stark and it's horrifying. The ultimate abandonment. He was a small child left for 4 days with his mother's body. I mean, that is the darkness he has been running from his entire life.
So now he's faced with losing Anna, and he's finally starting to confront his past. And Christian does something he has never, ever done before. He tries to change the rules. He actually starts to renegotiate their relationship, trying to move away from dominance and toward what they call a vanilla future, one based on actual romance, not contracts and control.
And look, he starts taking concrete steps. First, he acknowledges the real problem, which is his own joy in inflicting pain. That's a huge admission for him. Second, he agrees to change his limits. He agrees to no whips, no canes, no belts. And finally, and this is probably the most important part, his entire objective shifts. It's not about dominance and control anymore. It's about wanting to take care of her. And what's so telling here is the shift in his motivation. It's not really about his need to control anymore. Now it's about his profound fear of abandonment. Think about it. He avoids the playroom not just because she dislikes it, but because it's the place where she left him, and he just can't bear to feel that kind of devastation ever again.
This whole transformation, it all culminates in the ultimate renegotiation. And we're not talking about a contract this time. We're talking about his entire life, his future, his whole identity. We're talking about the marriage proposal.
And even after he asks her, his internal monologue is just filled with shock and uncertainty. You can tell this wasn't some calculated move in his campaign. No, it was a moment of pure, terrifying vulnerability. And for the first time, he has absolutely no idea what's going to happen next.
So, this is it. This is the climax of his entire emotional journey. After all of it, the rules, the trauma, the jealousy, the pain, he lays everything on the line. So the question is, what could she possibly say?
She says yes. Just yes. And with that one single word, she accepts all of him, the man he is and the man he's so desperately trying to become. It's the validation, the security that he has never, ever had in his life.
So Christian's journey in Darker is just this profound, really painful story of change. He gets dragged out of his meticulously controlled world and into the light, and he ends up proposing a whole new future for himself. But all this transformation, it leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question, doesn't it? Can a man who is so fundamentally shaped by his trauma ever truly escape his past?